welcome to Full Frontal. Let me have Kayleigh McEnany introduce me.
I couldn't get out of my head as I watched this, the White House Correspondents Association dinner from 2018, where Sarah Sanders was so maliciously attacked. You had Samantha Wolf, or B, whatever the heck her name is, Michelle Wolf.
I'm Samantha B, not to be confused with my identical twin Michelle Wolf, not to be confused with my comic book, Beowulf, a fearsome mystical creature that fights injustice, but is, unfortunately, always on its period. I submitted it to Marvel, and they called it gruesome and not in the way we want. But speaking of things we do want, this week a federal judge in California ruled that Trump, more likely than not, illegally attempted to obstruct the count of electoral votes. And, oh, baby, that is not all.
White House records turned over to congressional investigators show a 7-hour gap in President Trump's phone logs.
The committee is now investigating whether Trump communicated that day, potentially using phones that belong to aides or even burner phones.
Trump said in a statement, "I have no idea what a burner phone is. To the best of my knowledge, I have never even heard the term."
Well, John Bolton already disputed Trump's lie. I mean, Donnie has probably flushed more phones than he's kept. There are like a jillion photos of Trump looking at cell phones like they're new cabbages. If those aren't burners, it's time to give him a jitterbug and put him out of his misery. And Trump isn't the only one looking guilty.
Earlier, we reported on text messages that illustrate the extraordinary relationship between Clarence Thomas's wife, her name is Virginia, a conservative activist who goes by Jenny, and Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows.
The messages show she pushed the Trump White House to fight the results of the 2020 election. On November 10th, she texted Meadows, "Help this great president stand firm. The majority knows Biden and the left is attempting the greatest heist of our history." At the same time, Trump was appealing directly to the Supreme Court to intervene on his behalf.
Basically, Ginny Thomas sent Mark Meadows the worst "you up" text ever because she followed it with "to overturn the election." Well, Ginny Thomas has no official government role. She is influential. She and Justice Clarence Thomas are seen as the Supreme Court's it couple, mostly because they scare small children. In total, the congressional committee obtained 29 texts between Thomas and Meadows, with Thomas sending 21 of them. Ma'am, that ratio is thirsty. I haven't been this humiliated by someone else's text since Elizabeth Holmes told Sunny Balwani he was her water and ocean, meant to be only together tiger, and he texted her back, "Okay." But miraculously, Thomas's texts were even weirder than that.
On November 6th, she said, "Do not concede. It takes time for the army who is gathering for his back." And then on November 19th, "Make a plan, release the Kraken, and save us from the left taking America down."
That shit is nuts, especially considering everyone knows the only thing the Kraken has ever released is his comedy podcast, Crackin' Up. Ginny Thomas didn't just try to overthrow the election by text. She also showed up at the Stop the Steal rally on January 6th.
Back in March, Mrs. Thomas admitted that she went to the Stop the Steal rally at the Ellipse on January 6th, but claimed she left because it was too cold.
No. Now, I can confirm this is a lie because I have never heard another white person say they're leaving because it's too cold. I mean, this dude was fine, and all he wore were his horns. The revelations about Ginny Thomas's activities have sparked outrage from Democrats who are pulling out the big guns by sending a whole entire letter to the Supreme Court. The letter calls on Clarence Thomas to recuse himself from any cases involving the January 6th attack or efforts to overturn the election. And if he refuses, he'll have to face the grave consequences dispensed by our legal system.
Who enforces the law when it comes to Supreme Court justices?
So there's no way to enforce these laws.
God damn it! Didn't anyone read the instructions before building this country? It is absolutely bonkers to expect Clarence Thomas to recuse himself just because it's the right thing to do. Doing the worst possible thing is Thomas's whole deal. From his shitty court opinions to the time he allegedly sexually harassed Anita Hill by talking about a porn star named Long Dong Silver, to the time he tried to open his own restaurant called Long Dong Silver's. In 28 years, Clarence Thomas has only recused himself 32 times, far less than the average justice. Clarence Thomas is so dedicated to his job, he shows up even when he clearly shouldn't.
Former President Trump, who asked the Supreme Court earlier this year to block the committee's request for his records. Last month, the court declined over the objection of only one justice, Clarence Thomas.
And he would have gotten away with it, too, if it hadn't been for... Oh, he did. He did get away with it. The House panel is doing its best to paint a full picture of what happened on January 6th, but it does not have the power to pursue criminal charges. Instead, it provides the Justice Department with evidence and criminal referrals. The committee has recommended contempt charges for several Trump aides, including Hollywood heartthrobs Steve Bannon and Mark Meadows. But this week, they expressed frustration with the DOJ for not doing more.
This committee is doing its job. The Department of Justice needs to do theirs.
The Department of Justice has a duty to act on this referral and others we have sent.
They sound really unhappy with Merrick Garland.
To be fair, even Merrick Garland seems unhappy with Merrick Garland. He has the saddest smiles this side of the orphanage. The Justice Department needs to pursue a full investigation into whether Trump and his allies committed crimes in connection with January 6th. Fortunately, at least 800 people have been charged with participating in the insurrection, and the Justice Department is widening its inquiry to a range of pro-Trump figures. But if the people who stoked and orchestrated the insurrection don't face real consequences, Republicans will absolutely use that to help undermine the next election. If we don't take this seriously, the next time they will succeed. We'll be right back.